Hey guys, it's Bailey. Welcome back to the channel and thank you so much for tuning in. Today's video is going to be a CYO brand overview, or I guess a brand overview of the brand CYO. And I think it's just CYO, not CYO Beauty or Cosmetics or anything like that. Basically, it is a beauty line, relatively recently new to drugstore shelves, like within the past few months, and it's exclusively available at Walgreens. Pretty new to my radar. I wasn't really aware of them until 2 to 3 weeks back. They sent me a PR package full of a small assortment of things that they had recently come out with, and between my curiosity was piqued from that, but then in talking about it on Instagram stories, a lot of you guys had questions and actually asked for a brand overview. So here we are. I have the products they sent me in addition to a lot of other things that I actually went in store to Walgreens to find myself. One challenge with this brand is it's not super readily available in Walgreens stores. I recommend you go on, rather than going to your closest store and hoping they have it, go online and look at the CYO products and you can see what closest Walgreens has it. And you might be surprised to find that it's farther away than you think. I live in Dallas and was kind of surprised to find that like 2 Walgreens in the Dallas area, not the metro like Dallas Fort Worth, but specifically close to me, only 2 Walgreens had it. So before you make the trek, I recommend going online and seeing what's there, and hopefully this review helps you out. If you don't have a Walgreens near you that carries them, this will give you a good idea of what might be good from the brand, what you might want to pass on from the brand, or just give you a better idea, period. Before I dive into it though, one thing I do want to mention, especially if you are in-store shopping for these items, is grab the coupons, because when I was in store, I saw something for $1.50 on the display, ripped it off thinking every little bit counts, right? So I save $1.50 on this purchase, even though in my mind, I mean, here's my receipt. I bought like 12 items. And so I was expecting, you know, something along the lines $50 plus minimum, right? But once she was done ringing me up and I saw the total was only $36.50, I realized that $1.50 coupon got applied to every single item in my cart. And these things aren't, I mean, nothing is over $7. So it's affordable to begin with. And then to save that on top of it, it was like such a shock to me. Highly recommend you go in store if you can, and be sure and keep your eye out for a coupon, because not only that, but then I also did, I think there was a beauty something going on where if you activated your card or activated the offer, you got additional points buying beauty items. And so in addition to that savings, I also got $20 in like points coupons or whatever, like points to use for credit on later purchases. So I was pretty proud of this shopping excursion. Okay, now let's dive into the products. This is a pretty expansive makeup line. I mean, they have a little bit of everything and a few shades in it, a few types of it. So there really is a good variety within this brand, and something that I don't know if this is like their core value or like what they're all about, but something I saw really prominently on the display in Walgreens, and something they included in their little press page that they gave to me, is this hashtag mix layer hack. And it's all about offering tips for not just how to use the products, but how to maybe mix them together, mix them with existing things in your makeup collection, your makeup routine, to just kind of change things up and try makeup a little differently. I am a huge fan of a hack, so I really love and appreciate learning little things like that. And even if they're old, they're things you know, it's always a good reminder. Like when I'm going through my daily routine, it's just kind of the same old, I always forget to kind of reach back into my bag of tricks to just kind of add some excitement, change things up. And so for as small as it is, I really like that this brand incorporates those elements to it. And I'm honestly a little surprised that I haven't seen other brands do similar things. Like they'll occasionally offer tips, but it seems like tips and hacks are kind of like at the core of what a lot of these products are. But anywho, that's just a little bit about what I found interesting about the brand. Let's talk about the products. First, starting with the foundation, well, some face products. First of which is this foundation. Had to pick this up because a lot of you guys said that you had heard rave reviews about it. It is the long-lasting foundation Life Proof. I'm not sure if that's actually part of the name, but it says long-lasting foundation Life Proof. Mine is in the shade 107, and this is actually why I ended up going in store to purchase, because I was looking on Walgreens.com and it is just so hard, specifically for these foundations. Like I just had no way to get my bearings to understand where I would fall in the shade range. So I really wanted to go in store. Glad I did, because I found I was like way off. I was like 3 or 4 shades way too light for me, and looking online. So super glad I did that. Recommend you do the same if you can. I am the shade 107 for reference. So the consistency here is kind of like a cream gel to me. As weird as that is, you pump it on the back of your hand and it looks kind of like it's going to be a thick cream, but as you go to blend it out, it doesn't sheer out, but you appreciate the thin consistency it has, and an unexpected thin consistency that it has, which is what makes me say it's kind of like a gel cream hybrid. Either way, I think that's what lends itself to laying really lightly on the skin and looking very natural on the skin. It's safe to say I really like this foundation, obviously. It's buildable, so it's like medium to pretty full coverage, and you can really layer it because it's so thin without getting cakey in some places. I have combo skin for reference, so I can experience dryness here on my perimeter, and I also experience oiliness in my T-zone. Did not notice this getting any sort of texture around my dry areas, and really didn't notice it getting excessively oily throughout the day in my T-zone. I really think, I mean, true to its name, that it is a long-lasting foundation and going to be good for people, like I said, that want a more fuller coverage but still has that natural look to it. It is a really matte formula, so if that's your thing, I think you're really going to like it. I used to be into matte textures or matte finishes a lot, but recently I have been more about the glow and the dew, just to give the skin a little bit more of a healthy texture, a healthy dimension to it. So I found that for my current taste, the combination between this and especially the setting powder from CYO that I used and we'll talk about later, it looked a little bit too dry for me, and so I would incorporate the CYO Illuminating Mixing Cream, turn on the light. In fact, that's what I'm wearing today, and you have to mix quite a bit of this in. Like, this is not, it's relatively pigmented, but it's not like an in-your-face blinding cover effects luminizing, those luminizing drops. It's nowhere near something like that if you mix it in with your foundation. So I did find like 1.5 to 2 pumps gave me the glow you see today, and the kind of glow that I really do like to see in my foundation without going excessively glowy and dewy, but not also being way too matte. And the illuminating cream has a similar texture to the foundation too, so you'll find that it looks kind of thick and stiff if you apply it to the back of your hand, but once you start blending, it thins out super fast, melts into your skin. So it's good for mixing with your foundation. It doesn't kind of affect the wear of that formula at all, but I also think it's going to be good pre-setting powder to apply over top your foundation if you want that glow sitting on top of there, like on tops of your cheekbones or, you know, wherever it is you want it. Also as a body highlighter, because you do get a little over 1/2 ounce in here, it's going to be great to just like pump on your shoulders and rub in down your arms, whatever, especially in the warmer summer months. Bottom line, really like these two and would recommend you pick them up if you're interested. Oh my gosh, you guys, this is going to be a long one. I hope you brought a snack. Next up is the setting powder. This is called the Fixing Powder All Set in the shade Clear. Didn't see any tinted powders there, so they just have a translucent one for now. This is super finely milled. A little surprised to see how finely milled it is, and I really like it as a result. Like I said, it does mattify your skin as you apply it. I like to put it in my under eye area to make sure my concealer stays all day, and a little bit in my T-zone to make sure I don't get excessively oily there. But a little bit goes a long way, and because it's so finely milled, I find it's just like silk on your skin. Like, it's undetectable, really smooths out the texture of your skin. It just, as far as setting powders go, drugstore or not, I really like this one for how lightweight and mattifying but non-drying it is. The next product is one that surprised me a little bit. It is a cooling bronzer stick that I picked up. There were 2 shades available. I got fair medium, but there is a medium deep. The fair medium, I mean, I was skeptical for a couple of reasons. First of all, fair medium looked way too orange. It's like this shimmery, orangey, bronzy glow that I just thought would come off as too orange on my skin tone, but with such a limited shade range, wasn't much of a choice I had. Second was the cooling texture. I thought this is gonna be kind of a wet, like a wet feeling stick, and maybe even an actually wet stick texture that's gonna like be sticky. It's not gonna dry down completely. It's just gonna mess up my foundation if I apply it over top. But super pleased to say it is not a gimmick. It truly does cool the skin. It has a high water content, so you do feel that cool as you apply it, but it is super easy to blend without disturbing your foundation. I did it pre-powder, so I didn't powder any of my face just in case any excess fell here, because I didn't want that to, you know, mixing kind of a cream product with that powder texture. So I did hold off on applying that until I was done with my bronzer, but I'm pleased to say it didn't come off too orangey or too shimmery for that matter. You did experience the cooling effect, which is going to be great in the summer if you have a sunburn or allergies, you just have irritated or sensitized skin. Great cooling texture for that. And it lays beautifully, so if you're into stick products, this is a good one to reach for. Oh, the other thing important worth mentioning on this is that it does dry down to, like, fully dry down to a powder texture. It is so annoying to me when a cream formula doesn't, because it affects the way other powder products might apply over top if they get kind of patchy, and your face just stays sticky throughout the day. Like, no one wants that kind of wet, tacky just no thank you. So this does fully dry down, which I like. Speaking of blush, I picked up 2. One is a cream shadow and blush in the shade Smart Talk. But when I got home, I found it was open. There wasn't a seal on any of these blush things. And even though they have testers, it's one of the few brands in the drugstore that has testers for every single product, Someone still opened a non-tester, so ticked me off when I got home to see that I thought I'd gotten a good product, but nope, there is a smudge in this pan. So did get to try that, but the shade looks beautiful, and I love that you can multitask with it on your eyes and your cheeks. But the powder blush that I have been using and loving is just called Powder Blush, and it's Powder Blush Crush on Blush. I think it's the full product name. In the shade Just Saying. There were some really pigmented blushes. Like this was one of the least pigmented. I don't know where my words are today, but one of the least pigmented. No. That doesn't sound right. The shade had really vibrant colors. This was one of the least vibrant, which I feel like is saying something because it's a pretty pigmented berry. So I think a lot of different skin tones are gonna be able to enjoy this blush range, not only for the shades that they have, but if all of them are as pigmented, as the payoff is as good as this one is, I think it's really going to show up and actually serve a lot of skin tones. This one is kind of a soft berry with a hint of shimmer, not so much so that I would call it a blush topper or a highlight, but it has some, you know, it's definitely not a matte blush. And now that I think about it, I cannot remember if on that display there were matte textures, so I will try and annotate or maybe put a note in the description below if they do have those variations in the finishes. But for now, the only one that I've tried is a shimmer, and I just really like the color. It's been one of my go-to blushes because they're very compact, super easy to carry around with you, reach for, and you know they're gonna do a good job at applying a good amount of product that you can build if you so choose. For highlighter, I picked up the bronzing and highlighting palette shimmer switch called In the Clouds. There were two shades when I went to go pick these out. This one, which is a little bit cooler, has some more pinky tones, although it does have more of a bronzy strip here at the bottom. I feel like it's getting very washed out. But then the other one was a little bit deeper, not a whole lot bit deeper, and was a little bit warmer, not fully orange, but just like a little warmer than this one. So two shades. I don't know that there was a huge difference there. One might just be a little bit more golden versus this one, which is a frosty champagne kind of situation going on, but there are two in case you're curious. And this is super similar to a lot of shimmer strip items you're gonna see out there, whether it is the Physicians Formula shimmer strips or the thing that they do, where they originally duped, which was the Bobbi Brown shimmer brick, I believe. It's a very similar concept, and my feelings are pretty similar. I love when you swirl them all together, you really can't tell there's a bronze in here, even though it says it's a highlight and bronzing palette. I'm wearing it today, and I've been wearing it the past few videos. There is like no hint of bronze. I would never use this as a bronzer because it is so light and so shimmery, which makes it perfect for a highlighter. I also wouldn't necessarily use this for an eyeshadow because for as much work as it would take to get a smaller brush and like work it in there and apply it to your eyes, all the colors pretty much look the same. So you can wear it on your eyes and it's a gorgeous wash of color across the lid, a la like To Throw It Back, to Steela's Kitten. This is what that would remind me of on the lids. But I don't know that I would take the effort to take an individual brush and put it in just because they really don't look all that different. That said, it really is a gorgeous highlighter. I don't know that it's anything super special that you wouldn't find outside of other drugstore brands, but if you're looking for a highlighter and this tone is kind of speaking to you, I would recommend it. All right, now let's talk about a body item before we move on to the eyes. This came in that PR package. It's called the Shimmering Bronzing Oil in the shade Gift of Gold. I don't think they have any other shades besides this, and this is nice when mixed in with something like your lotion or a foundation, but it needs something to kind of act as a medium for it so that the shimmers don't sink into fine lines and creases. I'm talking specifically like the few times that I wore it, it was on my arms, and at the end of the day I like looked in this arm crease. You know how, especially as it gets hot, you sweat and things just kind of like fall into your crevices. God, that sounds disgusting, but you know it's true and you know what I mean. So that's just the pigmented and like some of the shimmer fell in here because at the end of the day I was like, what in the world did oh, it's the body oil. So it just needs like a little bit of a medium to grab hold onto so it doesn't move around and kind of settle into creases throughout the day. But it does add a pretty bronzy glow, and it is in a wet medium so that if you don't want to go with the powder highlight, you want something that might be a little bit more hydrating to your skin, this would be a good thing to reach for, especially when tackling like larger areas all over your body. Okay, now on to the eyes. You guys, we have so much to talk about. Let's first cover this. Woo, oh dear. First I want to talk about the Take the 3-Way Shadow Liner and Mascara because I did, you know, it's a 3-in-1 product, so I just did a dedicated video on it. I'm not going to talk too much about it here. I'll just tell you instead to go click the eye or the link in the description bar below if you want to see the full review of that. But basically, for the price, it's not bad. If you're looking for a multitasking product, it is certainly up up there. I'm not crazy about the color selection, and I would have preferred, actually a lot of you guys suggested this, a crayon eye color instead of the powder that's in here, which is a little messy. It's not very pigmented. That was the one downfall for me, but if you're looking for a good go item that you can kind of multitask with in terms of mascara and liner, this is a really good and affordable one to reach for. I also have an eye crayon. This is the metallic eye stick. I'm so confused by the shade versus the product name. It says metallic eye stick sweeping statement, but the shade is definitely clowning around. Either way, it's a soft or a light pinky champagne, like very subtly pinky champagne. That's a pretty wash of color across the lid. If you build it up, it looks more metallic, and if you sheer it out, there's definitely some chunkier shimmers in there. Not glitter, but definitely a more shimmery texture. I find I need a primer if I want to wear just this shade alone on my lid, but it acts beautifully as an eyeshadow base if you want to apply that all over the lid and then apply something over top. But it is really beautiful when worn alone on the eyes and is of course super affordable. They also have a hack that recommends that you use it as a facial highlight, but like I said, when you blend it out, you will notice a little bit more of those individual shimmers shining through. And so if you're not a fan of like a chunkier glitter highlight, I would not reach for it in that case. I would keep this strictly to your eyes, unless you want to build it, you know, get rid of those shimmers and build it, and then you'll have like a super metallic highlight. But yeah, that's the one thing where you have to try it for yourself to see if that's how you want to wear it, but they do say you could wear it on your face, so it's a multitasker. The two single eyeshadows I have from them, I am in love with. The one that I'm wearing today is the Shimmer Eyeshadow Everything Illuminated. It's so confusing, these names. Shimmer Eyeshadow Everything Illuminated in the shade Otherworldly. It's just a really pretty yellow gold shimmer shade. I am not wearing this with any primer underneath. This is just how pigmented it is, and if I did have a primer, it would be even more amped up. They're just so easy and pigmented to apply. And then the other one that I was wearing, that I applied over top the metallic eye crayon, this guy. This is a metallic eyeshadow Crush on Metal in the shade Cooey. I don't know if I'm saying that right. But it reminds me a lot of either the MAC Dimensional eyeshadows. Catrice has similar eyeshadows like this, but they're basically intensely metallic eyeshadows, and this Cooey in particular is like this gorgeous bronzy copper shade. It's so pigmented, it's so gorgeous across the eyes. It's a little bit more metallic, whereas the shade that I'm wearing today is a little bit more shimmery, as the eyeshadow names might suggest, but just know that they are pretty true to the name, whereas you're going to get more of a shimmer from the one and a pretty strong metallic shift from the other. But wait, there is more eyeshadow. I actually picked up a palette as well. This is the Pack a Punch Rainbow Warrior eyeshadow palette. They also had a more neutral eyeshadow palette, but I love to play with colors, so even though this really is not all that colorful. I got it for the purples, but it turned out to be less intensely purple than I initially thought. And when I first saw this, I just saw sleek makeup. This reminds me so much of the sleek makeup palettes, between the packaging, like this sleek black exterior, a sizable mirror, and down to the pan arrangement and size. Very, very similar. What I didn't realize when I got this though is you actually get 4 cream pans in here, a primer, a highlighter, and then 2 metallic shades. The primer is pretty good. It's relatively thin. I just applied it with my finger across the lid and then went and pat my shadow over top. It prevented my shadow from creasing, but I did notice some fading throughout the day. Like, it's not the most steadfast primer you're gonna have, I don't think, but in terms of keeping it all in one place, it is nice to have in here. The one downfall though is there's a cover that comes on this when you purchase it, but once you remove it, there's no way to cover it back up to make sure that any kicked up shadow you have from your powders over here don't fall into these creams. So that's kind of a bummer. You gotta be a little bit careful with that as you're, moving it around, messing with it, things like that, but not the worst thing in the world. Then you have 8 powder shadows over here, 3 of which are pigmented, the other 5 are shimmery. I do wish they would for as many, the matte shades in here aren't especially spectacular, so if they were going to put some in here, I wish they would have done some more mid-tone browns, because right now you have this super light cream shade, a dark navy-ish purple shade, and a deep matte black. And overall, this kind of misses like that transitional crease shade for me. But I do like the lilac. You get some golden tones, 2 coffee tones, kind of redundant coffee tones though. One is more of a warm coffee, and the other is a cooler dark chocolate, which I feel like you could have scrapped one and maybe one of these bronzy shades too in lieu of one of those mid-tone crease shades. Overall, it's not a bad palette. The pigmentation's definitely there. They blend smoothly and beautifully in with each other. It's not the best eyeshadows I've ever used, but it's not the worst, and I do like how they have them paired with the cream textures over here too. 3 more things for the eyes. Let's do eyeliner because it's going to be fast because it was kind of a fail. This is the semi-permanent eyeliner. This line's a keeper. I don't even know if this is what the shade is anymore because I'm so confused by that, but it's black eyeliner, and I was especially intrigued because it said semi-permanent. I was actually kind of scared because it said semi-permanent, but excited to try it. So it has this brush tip applicator, and the consistency of the liner itself is a little bit on the thicker side. It's very, very shiny, and it dries pretty shiny. It's like a patent sort of formula, but as a result, it has just a thicker, less liquidy formula. It's very opaque, but because it's so thick, it takes forever to dry. And so I cannot tell you how many times I used this that I thought it was dry and I went around to do something, whatever, and I opened my eyes really wide, and the second that, you know, this outer portion hit my lid or my crease area, boom, it was just like smudged everywhere. And because it really does dry down to be, it's not semi-permanent, but it's very long wearing. You do need an oil-based makeup remover to remove it. It was so hard to fix. It was so frustrating. There are certainly faster drying liners out there to where I just can't, you know, I prefer not to use this because it takes so long to dry. Even though it's like an inky black line on your eyes, I do not have the time. And last for the eyes, technically are the brows. I picked up both a pencil and a tinted brow gel. The pencil is called Brow Sculpting Pencil Frame of Mind in the shade medium brown, and this is one of those that has like this angled and tapered shaped tip, so it makes it a little bit easier to kind of fill larger portions of your brows, but if you tilt it on the side you can get more individual looking brow hairs if you care to draw them on that way. And then on the other hand, you do have a spoolie. This is a very standard formula. I mean, it's one of those that you can definitely reach for and count on it being a good product, but it's not any different than something that you might find, like L'Oreal recently came out with some. I think Maybelline might have come out with some. CoverGirl certainly came out with one. It has a more narrow tip to it, so it's a little bit better for drawing on those fine hairs, the one from CoverGirl, but just in general, it has a little bit of a waxier texture, so it helps kind of keep your brows in place as well as fill them in, but it's nothing unique to the drugstore, I don't think. Just a good standby brow pencil that you can count on working if you reach for it. Similar thing can be said for the brow and lash gel. It's a good formula that you can depend on if you reach for it. You know it's going to coat your brows, it's going to tint your brows, and it's going to keep them in place throughout the day without them looking or feeling too crunchy or immobile. But it's not something spectacular from the drugstore. I think the most unique feature of this is going to be the wand. It's kind of a bigger wand. If you have small or thin brows, I wouldn't recommend it because it's basically like a mascara wand. But on one end, the bristles are cut short, so it's good for really piling on the product if that's what you're after. And then the other end is longer, so it's good at dispersing the product and kind of separating your brows. So I do really like that kind of multifunctional feature of the wand. Last up, home stretch, guys. We're talking about lips, first of which is a lipstick. This is the Life and Soul, no, it's the ombre lipstick in the shade Life and Soul. And I was, again, a little bit skeptical about this one because it seemed like it could be a gimmick. You have this square lipstick that is divided diagonally with one lighter shade and one deeper tinted shade. In this case, it is like a deep berry and a light cream. And no matter which way I applied this, like I thought I would do it I tried it every which way. I did not get an ombre out of this thing. It really all just blends and smudges together. It creates a really pretty pinky lipstick, but sooner skip the awkward shape and delivery of the lipstick and just mash it all together to create that pink to apply it. Because it wears nicely, it doesn't bleed or feather or anything like that. It's not super long wearing, it's a very creamy and light formula, but as far as lipstick goes, it's beautiful and it doesn't dry the lips out or anything like that. Like, it is a good lipstick, just not super long wearing. And yeah, I would totally ditch the square delivery system. Last up are some metallic liquid lipsticks, and despite the name, these are not actually liquid lipsticks that will dry down to a matte finish. I'm wearing one today. It is in the shade Metal Lasting Shine. It's a soft rose gold kind of pinky shade, and then the other shade that I have here is, no, again, oh, it threw me off. I thought those were the shades. No, metallic liquid lipstick, Metal Lasting Shine is just the product name. The shades that I have are Plead the 5th, that's what I'm wearing, and Busted, which is this purple. These are really nice and might already be a formula that you're already familiar with, and maybe a shade that you're already familiar with. So I applied this today and I was like, I'm having deja vu, I'm having a lip moment, I just know I've seen this shade before. And I have. It is in the Smashbox Be Legendary Liquid Metal lipstick in the shade Mauve Squad. It is a tad deeper than Plead the 5th, which is, again, what I'm wearing today. You can see Plead the 5th is a little bit pinker, a little bit lighter, whereas Mauve Squad is just a little bit deeper. But in terms, I mean, for all practical purposes, they're very, very similar down to the formula even. That's exactly what these feel like. They're very thick, glossy feeling products, comfortable on the lips, give a lot of slip without being sticky, and are pigmented with one swipe. But the pigment does not bleed out into your lip line. Sometimes with a glossy product that has a lot of pigment to it is you'll find that the pigment separates from the medium, and as a result it'll just be like this uneven wear throughout the day. But that's not the case at all with these. I found they wore away evenly as they did. They're not super long wearing because they have that glossy texture, but they're also very easy to apply because they don't dry down into a stain where you have to worry about the clashing of the dry and the new and all that. You just don't have to worry about it. And there's the bonus of duping a relatively high-end alternative. All right, I feel like we just ran a marathon together, guys. Those are all the products that I have tried from CYO. I hope this brand overview was everything you'd hoped it would be and that I included all the information you were interested in. If not, as always, leave a question down in the comments below. Happy to answer it, or anybody else that can answer it. Besides that, guys, thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and I will catch you in the next video. Bye, guys.